Hi, grade 12s. Let's do trig functions in this question paper. So question 7 says we are given f of x, which is this trig function, and g of x, which is this trig function. And the first question is, solve for x if this function is equal to that function for this interval. So they give us a specific interval. So this is where the two graphs will intersect each other, but it's also a general solution. So there's 6 types of general solutions, eh? So which type is this? So let's write our question down. So as you can see, grade 12s, this is a cos and this is a sine. So there's only 2 terms, eh? But the angles are not the same. So when you have 2 terms and it has cos and sine, and the angles are not the same, then this is the co-function type. So this is for 7 marks. So I think you can get all 7 marks, eh? Let's write our steps down. So step number 1 is change the right-hand side of the equation. So you will change a sine to cos, or you will change a cos to sine, depending on the question. How you change it is you write 90 minus the angle that's given. So that's the first step. The second step is to determine what your reference angle is. So you're going to simplify your angle, and that angle is called the reference angle. Then you're going to choose your quadrants, and you're going to write your solutions. And remember, k is an element of an integer. Okay, so let's start with this question. So first thing here, we have to change the right-hand side. So the left-hand side stays the same, and you write it down. But this sine will now become cos. So here we see sine will become cos, and cos will become sine. So sine will become cos because we changed the right-hand side. How do we change it? We write 90 minus the angle that was given. So I'm going to write 90 minus this angle. I put the angle in brackets so that I don't make mistakes. Then I'm going to simplify my angle. So do you see this angle that you changed now, this one? We have to add the like terms. We have to remove the brackets and add the like terms. So let's do that. So the left-hand side stays the same, eh? This is now a cos. So inside I now have a 90. This and this is a minus x. This and this is a plus 30. So I have a cos 3x. And I have a cos. Let's add the like terms. 90 plus 30 is 120 minus x. Okay, I simplified it. And now this simplified version of this angle is my reference angle. That is my reference angle. So with the co-function type, you don't use your calculator to find the reference angle. My reference angle is 120 minus x. Okay, so I'm now here. I have to choose my quadrants, eh? So do you see in front of this cos, it's a positive. Do you see there is a positive? So I'm going to ask, where is cos a positive? Cos is a positive in quadrant 1 and 4. So I'm going to do all my working out in quadrant 1 and in quadrant 4. So I'm going to have 2 different quadrants that I'm working in, eh? So in quadrant 1, I always start with this angle over here. And in quadrant 1, I'm going to write 3x is equal to the reference angle plus k360. And in quadrant, I'm going to start with this 3x again. So in quadrant 4, we write 3x is equal to 360 minus the reference angle plus k360. And in each case, I'm going to replace the reference angle with this expression over here because that is my reference angle. Eh? So let's start. In quadrant 1, I say 3x is equal to the reference angle plus k360. I take the negative x over, so it becomes a plus x. And this is 120 plus k360. This is now 4x is equal to 120 plus k360. And then I divide by 4. Divide by 4. Everything by 4. I get x to be 30 plus k 90. So that's the solution for quadrant 1. In quadrant 4, I'm going to write 3x is equal to 360 minus. Now I'm going to put the reference angle in brackets. Eh? So 120 minus x. plus k360. Now I'm going to remove the brackets. Then I'm going to take this x over. And then I'm going to add the like terms. This is now a 2x. This is a 240. And this is a plus k360. And then I divide every term by 2. So 2 divide by 2 divide by 2. And I get my x to be 120 plus k 180. Okay, and then I must just remember to write somewhere k is an element of an integer. Okay, so that's my solutions so far. Can you see how it must look like on your paper? Something like that, eh? But they gave us an interval here. They said they only want x to be between these angles. So between negative 60 and 180. So now I'm going to take my two solutions. So do you see, here's my one solution. And I'm going to take this solution. I'm going to substitute k is 0, k is negative 1, k is a positive 1 into this solution. And then see what the answers are. Eh? So if I make this k 0, I'm going to have 30 plus 0, which is 30. So I get this to be 30. You can just use your calculator. Eh? Then if I make my k negative 1, so I'm going to say 30, and I just make this k negative 1 in brackets on the calculator, I get that answer to be negative 60. Okay? And then I'm going to try 1. If I put in 1, I get my answer to be 120. Okay? Then I'm going to do the same for this one. I'm going to sub in k is 0, k is negative 1, k is 1. So if I make this 0, my answer is also 120. If I make this negative 1, my answer is negative 60. And if I make this a positive 1, my answer is 300. Okay? I must be between this and 180. So let's write the solutions down. That's there. So this is there, this is there, this is there. This is the same thing as this, and this is the same thing as that. So I'm not going to write them down because they are repeated. So my final answer for x is equal to 30, because that has a tick, negative 60, and 120. And if you want to write it from smallest to biggest, you can write negative 60 first, then 30, then 120. And that's the final answer. This is where the two graphs will intersect each other for that interval. 7.2 says we have to sketch F and G, there's F and there's G, on the same grid in the answer book. So this was the grid that was given. So now I'm going to show you how to sketch a graph. So here's our interval. So let's highlight our interval. That's our interval. So I'm going to use the calculator to sketch my graphs. Let's hope we get 6 out of 6 for this. Let's write the steps down. You're going to go to your calculator. You're going to press mode. Then you're going to press table. Then you're going to put in, let's put the first function in. The first function, f of x is sine x minus 30. That's the first one. You put that in. And then the calculator will ask from. So then we will say from negative 60. And then to 180, because that's what the question asked. And then our step. Because we have x minus 30, let's make the step 30. And then it will give you a table with x values and y values like that. And then we'll just plot the points. So let's take out our calculator. Okay, so here's the calculator. Yours will look similar, but not exactly like this. So I'm going to press mode. So I pressed mode. Then I'm going to choose table on this one. So there's table. You will have a number for your table. Then I'm going to press sign. And to make an x, you press alpha. And then you press the close bracket. So there by the close bracket, there should be an x there. Just check on your calculator. So alpha first, and then that, there is the x, and minus 30. So I'm putting that in, close the bracket. Then you press the equal sign. So it will first say g of x. So for g of x, we're just going to press the equal sign. Then for start, you're going to put in negative 60. For end, you're going to put 180, and your step is 30. You press equal to get to the next stage the whole time. And there you have a table. So x there refers to the x values, And f of x refers to the y values, eh? Okay, so I'm going to plot the points. So the first point is negative 60 and negative 1. Then I have negative 30, and that goes with negative 0,87 if you write that negative root 3 over 2 as a decimal, eh? So that will be somewhere in here, okay? Then I have 0 and negative half. So 0 and negative half is there. 30 and 0 is there. 60 and a half will be somewhere there. 90 and root 3 over 2. So 90 and 0,87 will be somewhere there. 120 and 1 is up here. And then 150 and 0,87 again is here. And then 180 and a half is then somewhere there. Okay, so now you just connect your dots, but make sure it forms a curve, eh? That's your trig function. Okay, and then put in the start coordinates. So this one is negative 60 and negative 1. And this one ends at 180 and a half. Then also put in your x-intercept. So this is 30 and 0. And then also a turning point. You see, this is a turning point. It has the highest y value. So this is 120 and 1. Okay, so there you sketched the one function, eh? And I would put in the y-intercept. This is negative a half over there. So the other function is g of x. And I think it's cos 3x, eh? So cos 3x is g of x. Now we put the same thing in. We press mode and table. And we put cos 3 alpha x. Like that. Equal. There's no g of x. So we make this f of x on the calculator. We start from negative 60. We end at 180. Our step. So the normal step, so for this one, the normal step, if you want to do like a step on a calculator for cos, I would advise you to take 90. But because there's a number in front of x, divide that by 3 and make your new step 30. So I would make my step 30. That's not always the case, but you'll play around. And then you get all your values. So the first value is negative 60 and negative 1. So negative 60 and negative 1. So they have the same starting point, eh? Then negative 30 and 0. So there it goes up. Then 0 and 1. So it goes up like that. Then 30 and 0. So it also goes through that point. 60 and negative 1. So I'm back here. 90 and 0. So I go up. 120 and 1 touches that one. 150 and 0. And 180 and negative 1. Okay, now you must join your dots, but it must form a curve. Eh? So when you turn, just make sure it turns like that. Okay, and not like that. And there you have it. So the start is there. The end point is 180 and negative 1. So I would put that in. Then I would also put the turning points in. Eh? So the turning point is the highest y value. It's this one here, 0 and 1. And then here's another turning point, but it's already there. And then here's also a turning point. This is 60 and negative 1. So I think that's it. And let's label them. The purple one is g of x. And the blue one is f of x. And you get 6 marks for this, eh? So let's see how you get. For the sign graph, for the shape, you get a mark. For showing the turning points and the x-intercept, you get a mark. And for showing the start and where it ends, that's a mark, eh? So you have to show that. You don't have to show every point. Then you get the same marks for the other graph. So you get a mark then for the shape for the purple one, the x and the y-intercepts, and the start and the end for purple. And that's how you get 6 marks. So you can get full marks for this question, eh? So let's look at our next question. 7.3 says, use the graph and the answers in 7.1. So that general solution, eh? To answer the following questions. Where is f of x times g of x less than 0? Okay, f of x times g of x less than 0. So this is a table, eh? So I'm going to do a table. I'm going to have f of x in my table. I'm going to have g of x in my table. And I'm going to have f of x times g of x. So that's in my table. The table will look something like this. And on these lines, because there was a 0 in the question, look, there's a 0. I'm going to look at the x-intercepts. of both graphs. I'm going to look at the x-intercepts and I'm going to ask a question. The question is the graph above the x-axis or is the graph below? So that's the question I'm going to ask. And if it's above, I will make a plus in my table. And if it's below, I will make a minus. First, let's plot the x-intercepts. So let's look at the blue graph. So for the purple graph, do you see that if you go up here, there's an x-intercept. So for the purple graph, that's an x-intercept. So that's negative 30. So I'm going to write negative 30 down there. Then for the purple graph, there's 30. That's another x-intercept. So let's write that down. Then here's also an x-intercept. That's 90. Then there's another one here. That's 150. Okay. Then for the blue graph, the first x-intercept is there. That's 30. So I have that. And that's the only x-intercept. So, okay, because I have 30, I don't have to write it again. So now I'm going to ask the question. So let's start with the blue graph because the blue graph is f of x. So the question is the graph above or below the x-axis? I'm going to highlight the x-axis with a different color so that you can see. So I'm only looking at the blue graph. So the blue graph only has this x-intercept. So I'm going to ask what happens before that and what happens after that. We are with a trig function. Let's just write this down. It doesn't start from negative infinity. It starts from negative 60 in this case. So let's write this down. This is negative 60. And here where it ends is 180. So I have to put the start and the end also in the table before I forget. So let's go again. From negative 60 to the x-intercept. Is the graph above the green line or below? So the answer is it's below the green line. So it's a minus and a minus up until 30. Then I ask, what happens after 30? After 30, the blue graph is always above the green line. After 30, so here's 30. After 30, it's above plus, plus, plus. Okay? Now I'm going to ask the same question for the purple graph. The purple graph has a lot of x-intercepts. Let's go. From here to the first x-intercept. Is the purple graph above the green line or below? The answer is below, so minus. Then, from negative 30 to the next intercept. Is the purple graph above or below the green line? It's above, so plus. So plus over here. Okay, so let's see what happens from 30 to 90 with the purple graph. So from 30 to 90, is it above or below? So it is still below the green line. So I'm going to write it's below. Then from 90 to 150, I'm going to look from 90 to 150. So from 90 to 150, it's above. So this is a plus. And then from 150 to 180, that last part over there, it's below. So from 150 to 180, that last part, it's below. So this is below. So then in my last step, I'm going to say a negative times a negative is a positive. And then this times this is a negative. This times this is a negative. This times this is a positive. And this times this is a negative. Okay, then I'm going to write the question down again. So it was this. Where is this less than 0? Because it's less than, I'm only looking for negative answers. So there's a negative, and there's a negative. So now I'm going to write my final answer down. The first negative is between negative 30 and 90. But I can't write the answer like this. I can't say it's between negative 30 and 90. Because if I say it's between negative 30 and 90, it means it includes this 30 over here. And there's no equal sign here. By 30, the y value is equal to 0. So because there's no equal sign in there, I can't write it as a whole interval. I have to break that interval up. So I'm going to write my final answer. I'm going to do this interval first. So I'm going to say x is between negative 30, because do you see negative 30 and 30? And can you see there's no equal signs? So it doesn't include 30. It doesn't include negative 30. It's between those two numbers. Then I'm going to say or. X is between these two numbers. X is between 30 and 90. And then I'm going to say or because there's another negative. X can be between these two numbers. And those two numbers are 150 and 180. And that's how you get your marks. So in the memo, it won't have a table, eh? The memo will only have 2 marks for this, 1 mark for that, and 1 mark for that. And that's how you get 4 marks for that last question. So that's trig functions on this paper, grade 12s.